Yeah, so nice to see you all, to see you nice good turnout from around the world. And I love it when people type in the chat box where they're calling in from. And we always have a big international community going on, which always energises me. I don't know about you, but it always energises me. So we've got Devon and South Wales, and we've got lots of people from England. It's funny, I went to I'm just letting a few more people in. It must be a month for music. Last weekend, I went to see the ABBA concert in London. And if you ever get a chance, if you've not been to it, with the holograms doing the concert, unbelievable technology. Where is technology going to lead us? That's what I want to know. But Valerie's in London. So anyway, nice to see you all, and thank you for joining me for tonight's webinar. So we'll get into some content, and so tonight we're going to be talking about hypnosis for vaping. And I have got a PowerPoint to share with you, and it's a bit basic, I have to say. The PowerPoint is a bit basic, but the main reason, I have to be honest, the main reason I do PowerPoints is to keep me talking about the right things and to not move off onto some random tangent somewhere. So I will share my PowerPoint with you, I say mainly because it keeps me on track. And I'll just organise my screen a little bit in a way that doesn't lose all of you, hopefully. Here we go. I haven't got any assistance tonight either, so it's also a bit hypnosis for vaping. That's what I want to be talking about. Some of you may have been working with people for vaping. Some of you might have been around in the hypnosis industry when really smoking cessation was one of the biggest things that we got. And we could almost fill our boots with smoking cessation all the time. And that has taken a bit of a dip down because, for a number of reasons. There's not as many people smoking anymore, and there's other methods available for them to stop. Certainly here in the UK, the NHS offer a lot of services for smoking cessation. So some of you might have in the past, if you've been in the industry long enough, might have in the past actually built your whole business on the back of smoking cessation. But as we know now, vaping is hugely popular. Just before we go into the vaping, I think most of you know me. My name's Sheila Granger. I'm based in the UK. I've been in this industry full time for 16 years now. Built a private practice in a doctor's office. And I get most of my referrals now, if I'm honest. A lot of my referrals come from the medical profession. So every now and again I seem to have a doctor or a consultant who just seems to empty their patient list onto me because they all come with it all of a sudden. And that's just been over time, building up referrals, building up relationships. But also I've also found that what has always kept me going, if you like, is about being on trend. So as opposed to just offering hypnotherapy per se, I tend to target what the current trends are and get on trend. So we become highly relatable and relevant to our potential customers, if that makes sense. So I've had a lot of press and media articles out there. I've authored a few books, and I try to help other hypnotherapists, other hypnotists achieve similar results and get similar business results if that's what we're looking for. So I think most of you know me, but that's a little bit about me if you don't know much about me. So for this webinar then, it's really about, okay, how do we go on to create perhaps a vaping cessation program? What aspects should we look at so we get really good results for our clients? It could be that some of you might have just thought, oh, well, I'll just deliver which is a common thing that I hear, I'll just deliver what I've got for smoking cessation for vaping instead. And sometimes that will work. It will work without doubt, but not all the time, because we've got a little separate dynamics going on with vaping. It could be that you're already in the cessation niche a little bit, but maybe you want more consistent client numbers. So that's really the things that we're going to be discussing tonight. I'm hoping to be able to help you and give you some ideas. And, I will open up for questions a little bit at the end if we've got some time. But we're going to aim to finish about 8 o'clock. And if I'm honest, I'm always one for being completely honest and truthful. The reason we have to stop by 8 o'clock is my husband has told me we cannot have dinner later than 8 o'clock because football is on the television. So I'm like, well, I've got a webinar that I'm running and there's quite a lot of people booked on it. Well, I'm not bothered about your webinar. I'm bothered about the fact that the football is on and that we cannot run into that. So there you go. That's my life. That's how it runs. So, but no, seriously, we will have some time for questions at the end. And I'm here to help you as much as I possibly can in the time that we've got. So what we're going to be looking at then is, what are the differences, similarities, perhaps of smoking cessation hypnosis and vaping? What similarities have we got? We're going to have a look at this thing called cognitive dissonance that it happens with smoking cessation, but it happens even more with people who are vaping. And perhaps how we could look to address it or use it in a way that's going to help our sessions. We're going to look at some aspects and strategies for working with young people who vape, because when we look at the statistics, the young people vaping, is a massive area. And I'm also going to, discuss a little bit about how we could address that as a community, and how we could potentially, help more young people. I'm going to touch a little bit on, how do we get consistent with client referrals in this area and to build perhaps a niche of cessation. So, could you be the kind of the go-to person for cessation services in your community? How do we become the known person for that? So just give me a wave if you think you're on the right webinar. Excellent, good. Want to be talking about the right things. We're in the right classroom. So when we look at statistics then for vaping, now I've only pulled off the statistics for the UK, and I'm aware that we have got people from all of the countries listening to this, but here in the UK, there are 3.6 million people using e-cigarettes. About 7% of the adult population. So 3.6 million people, that's quite a lot of clients to go at. If I just had, a third of those would be nice. How many of those would we like? But it's really prevalence in younger demographics as well. So, especially among 16 to 24-year-olds, where it's reported that nearly 16% are reported to be current vapors. Quite a lot of young people, isn't it? I find that quite a worrying trend, really, and something that isn't really being addressed. So I think there is margin, a big margin for this to be addressed in a big way. Some of you might have seen, vaping has hit the media in the cases where, youngsters have ended up in hospital, pop lung or whatever they call it. It has got health implications to it. So it has regularly been in the news. I will, when I send the recording out of this, I will try and remember to put the PowerPoint slides in. And if you want to have a look at any of this afterwards, you can do. But you probably just need to Google vaping in the news and it will come up with quite a lot of articles that may be useful for you. And if it's an area that you think, you'd want to get more into, one of the things I often do is I will just set up Google alerts. So if you Google alerts, Google will ask you what you want to be alerted about. So I get alerted every day with hypnosis in the news, and it'll pull up anything that's been reported anywhere. So if there's an area that you're particularly interested in, set up a Google alert for it. So you get notified about everything that's been said about that particular topic. And that allows you to produce content, press releases, all sorts of things yourself around your thoughts on that. So with the younger population then, who have not smoked before. So when we start to look at the differences between, smoking and vaping, what is somebody actually addicted to? That's what we're going to start looking at. But the big thing with young people is the big question is the vaping the potential gateway to nicotine addiction? Is that what we're looking at in the future for young people? So when we're looking at helping somebody for vaping, some of the first things that we do need to ponder, which will make a difference to what you do during the sessions, is are we actually, so certainly with adults, so we'll have adults that have been smokers and have turned to vaping. And so really, are we just dealing with a smoker? Have they just swapped one thing for the other? Is that how we should address it? That, they're really just a smoker. That they're not a vape. Well, they are vaping, but they're just a smoker. These vapes have different levels of nicotine within them. So are we really looking at, have we got a nicotine addiction going on as well? Are we looking at somebody who's never smoked but vapes? And how are we going to address that? With young people in particular, are we looking at the social influence that's going on here? The peer influence. Is that something that needs addressing? Is it the habit and how they're doing the habit, and that they're using this for a relief from stress, or, to get them through a certain thing, and that's why they're doing it? So these are the aspects that we need to start looking at if we're going to put together successful sessions. It's not a kind of, one cap fits all. It could be that you just just swap smoking cessation for, put the same thing across for vaping. It's not going to work in all situations if we do that. These are kind of the aspects that we need to start to kind of think about properly. So, what we've got, especially with vapors, we'll come across it with smokers, but even more so with perhaps people who are vaping. This thing called cognitive dissonance. And what cognitive dissonance really means is that we're acting in a way that doesn't really align with who we think we are. Some of that cognitive dissonance is with vaping is the belief that it's healthier. It's not as bad as smoking, is it? It's, they don't really not necessarily classing themselves as a smoker anymore because, it's not as bad as smoking. It's healthier. It's much healthier for me. When we've got peer pressure, it's kind of a bit more normalised. And with younger people, they have maybe immediate social benefits of vaping. They fit in with a crowd, and they don't necessarily look at, well, what are the long-term health implications for me of doing this? But cognitive dissonance itself, it's an unease within us. And, that unease can be very powerful because we're really highly driven to eliminate unease. And there's some ways here that people might typically deal with this unease, this dissonance that they feel, in that they'll justify maintaining the behaviour or the belief by kind of changing new information that they come across. That I've decided that if I only vape, then it's safe. I'm all right if I only vape. It's quite safe then. They're justifying the, well, it might be this medical implications of it. Or they justify maintaining it, or maintain the belief that it's all right, by adding some new behaviours into that. So, I exercise a lot and I take vitamins, because it kind of emulates that damage of any smoking or vaping. I do all this healthy stuff, so that's all right. I can get away with doing that. They ignore new information that conflicts with an existing belief. So, because I've decided that the science must be wrong. It must be wrong, these facts that they put in front of us, because I know a lot of doctors and nurses who vape. So if they're doing it, then actually that health information that they put out about it, well, that can't possibly be right. That's another way of somebody personally dealing with their own dissonance, their own unease about this conflict that's going on. And the fourth way is they kind of accept some new information about it, and then they'll change the behaviour or the belief. They've kind of set a boundary. I'll quit smoking, I'll quit vaping when my consumption exceeds half a pack a day. I won't go beyond that. Does that all make sense with people with that dissonance? And can you see how, we do need to look at this side of things, but also how we can use that unease within our sessions? Because when we're aware that somebody does have unease about this, what is the unease? Because sometimes, when we, if somebody's smoking or somebody's vaping, they're kind of wandering around life, not really giving this much attention, because they're carrying on with the habit. They're trying to just dismiss this unease, this little bit of unease that kicks in that, this is the right thing to do. We'll try and talk ourselves out of the health implications that might be coming down the line for us. And actually playing on somebody's unease can actually help, them make the decision to stop doing something. So cognitive dissonance is a massive thing, because as humans, we want to stop the unease. We want to try and find a way to stop it. One of the ways that we can look at overcoming this dissonance is, I haven't spent conscious right there. So we've got our, we can be consciously aware of inconsistencies, but can we bring the subconscious awareness of inconsistencies into our sessions? And draw those into our hypnosis sessions. The other thing is to bring massive awareness to our thoughts about this. Let's put a focus on them. Instead of, we don't tend to, as human beings, take control of our thoughts. So if we can get somebody taking control of them a little bit more, then that is going to help as well. Either just simply understanding or accepting things can reduce that unease a little bit. We all probably experience, dissonance, this unease about things, and we will find a way to either understand it or accept it. But our big thing that we want to look to do as hypnotists is change somebody's perception of the behaviour, of the vaping, of the smoking, in a way that reduces dissonance. So we want to reduce the unease with somebody. If we try to stop somebody without reducing the unease that they feel, that unease is going to take over. That is going to be the dominant thing. Does it make sense with people? Yes? Okay. Is it giving you things to think about? This is the main thing? Yes? Excellent. I keep having to look that way because you're on that screen over there now. When we just look at then a little bit of the research with young people, when they look at why they want to quit, They do have health concerns. One of the other reasons is down to pressure, social pressure, perhaps family, parents, brothers, sisters, not wanting them to do this. With the young people, of course, there isn't the cost implication that goes with smoking, but there is still a cost implication. So there are financial costs to this as well. And one of the other big things is, and all these ones have come from these reasons wanting to quit. These have all come from young people that I have worked with. These are the examples that I'm quoting to you, because I can only tell you what works for me and what I do within my practice and how I put things together. But there may be other things as well. So, the other thing was a desire for independence. So they want to be their own person, but this habit that they've got isn't giving them independence. And again, sometimes highlighting this to a young person, how, they want independence from the parents and to be able to do their own thing. And, well, this habit isn't fit in with that at all. A lot of young people, they might be into sports, physical fitness. They might have people that they, or the things that they aspire to do. And, they're very aware of, and adults can be as well, any potential judgment on this. If they're smoking or vaping, people feel, they're kind of going away and hiding in the corner, aren't they? They don't want people to be aware of it. They don't, and they worry that this is really going to impact what people might think about them, or they might have potential judgment from future employers for young people, judgment at universities or at colleges. All of this stuff gives us gold to help find the keys to help them let go of this. But it's having the understanding that's the most important thing. With hypnosis, really, what are we doing? We are trying to jump into somebody else's mind map of the world. How do they view the world? This isn't about our views on something, it's about how they see the world and us trying to find the keys in their world to make the adjustments. And the other thing is self-image, and what they personally feel is right and wrong. So for young people, those are the areas that they are most keen on when we're looking at helping them quit. And, I personally think there's a big piece that could be done here. How do we get put in front of, help young people? Because they're not traditionally going to be contacting us. When we think of, teenagers, etc., they're not traditionally going to be calling up the hypnotist and saying, yes, I'll pay for your session. We need to be put in front of them. Schools and colleges and universities have a major problem with vaping, because people are, hanging around in groups, they're going out of classrooms, they've got them in the toilets, they've got them in the bike sheds, they've got a big problem with it in schools and colleges, a big problem with it. Well, if we know they've got a big problem with it, then if we were to offer, and I would take the same approach that I took when I did a lot of work in schools and colleges, in that I did a lot of work in schools and colleges predominantly around exam stress. And the way that I got my foot in the door was going and delivering an assembly. And I offered to do an assembly, a talk, if you like, on how to manage the stress throughout exams. And as a result of that, I was in the school's newsletter. I was, got publicity in the school. The school gave me future sessions because they got to know me as a person and gave me other students to work with and deal with other problems that they got. And it led to all sorts of things. But but, you know, they want help in these places with vaping. So, you know, we could go in and give a talk touching on some of these reasons, the conscious reasons, of course, and then offering to do sessions after that for the actual vaping. I think schools would absolutely snap people's hands off for it. It would be something that you would be doing initially, if you like, to give back into your community. And I'm a big community give back person. I've always found from a business point of view that if we give back, we always receive. It just happens. We get avenues open up to us. Other things happen as a result of it. You know, you could do a big press release that, you know, you're looking to tackle vaping in your community, and especially with the young people. And so for the young people, you're doing these school gigs as a community give back. You're just portraying yourself as the expert in your area. So you will get all the adults contacting you because you have just portrayed yourself as the expert. Does that make sense with people? Yes, excellent. When we look at designing a hypnosis program then, so I personally, do a 2-session program for vaping. And we want to start unravelling the why. We want to start by, you know, maybe some questioning of the beliefs. Thinking about that cognitive dissonance. You know, what is somebody's beliefs about this? We need to explore their habits. How are they doing it? How are they doing this habit? You know, what triggers them for vaping? You know, are there so many times a day that they're doing this? At what times of the day? You know, how are they doing this habit? Because when we know how they're doing the habit, and I have a score chart that somebody fills in that gives me all these answers very easily, but I find out what the scores are. Scores on the doors, I call it, because it easily kind of finds out all these things that we need to know. But what it also does is identifies perhaps the stresses. So, you know, is it being used to relieve stress? Is it being used to, you know, keep up with a crowd if it's young people? Is it a nicotine addiction? You know, all these things you can start to find out. So on this first session, I'm really starting to identify what some of these things are. And I'll look at what are the main habits to address and work on those first. So what are the main stresses? What are the beliefs about this? You know, how, you know, what's the habit that's happening? And that will give me the clues on which 2 main areas to tackle. Because if I tackle the 2 biggest areas, the rest will probably fall into place. And they'll notice the biggest difference. But after that first session, you know, I will send them away with some conscious things to do between session 1 and session 2. Session 2, they're going to stop completely. Session 1 is paving the way for this. So what can we give somebody consciously to do to start addressing this habit, this addiction, whatever it is? And, you know, there may be different things that you choose or get somebody to do consciously depending on what you found out on this first session when you've explored the habit and you've looked at, you know, are we really dealing with a smoker? Are we dealing with an addiction? You know, what are we actually dealing with? But there's just a few ideas for you here of, you know, kind of ways that they could start to break the habit down a little bit between the first session and the second session. And this can also help with smoking as well. So generally, you know, with vaping, you know, they've got these flavoured things. They'll tend to stick to the same flavour. They'll have a certain amount of nicotine in it. So you want to know how much nicotine they've got in the vape that they're using. because, you know, we want to try and start to reduce that nicotine content down a little bit. So it could be one of the things that you ask them to do over the next week is, okay, I want you to change the brand that you're using. Like say, for example, my son-in-law, he's a vapor. And he has this, I mean, I'm not kidding you, it's this massive box that's been carried around with him. So, and he has a certain flavour and it will have a certain nicotine input. So if I was to say to him, okay, I want you to go and buy them little plastic vapes for the next week. I want you to have a different flavour and I want you to have a reduced nicotine content in it. Now, he can still vape, but it's not going to have the same hit. It's not going to taste the same. It's not going to feel the same. He's still getting a bit of a nicotine hit from it, but it's not going to be the same amount. So, you know, changing that consciously, we're thinking of this habit, just for the next week, I want you to go and do that. The other thing as well is that, you know, if we smoke or vape, you know, we tend to use the same hand. If you were to suddenly start vaping with the opposite hand, it wouldn't feel the same. The habit wouldn't feel the same. And the other thing is, so we've changed the brand, the flavour, we've reduced the nicotine content, and we're doing it with the opposite hand. This does not feel the same at all. It starts to not feel as good. You know, the habits form because it feels good doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. It doesn't feel good when we're not doing that same pattern anymore. It's not tasting the same. I also tend to ask people to keep notes on their feelings. Okay, so what's actually going on when you pick up that vape? What are you actually doing at that time? You know, and because then we start to notice what the pattern is. Is it, you know, I'm taking a break? Is it when I'm just relaxing? Is it when I'm having to concentrate on something? You know, when do we actually do this? Because then we can start to break that down on the sessions. You know, you can give them a little notebook. You can give them a branded notebook if you really want to get into cessation services. Give them branded notebooks, another way to kind of get your thing out there. But we're really getting somebody to notice their feelings, their emotions, their triggers and their drivers. You know, particularly that trigger of a thought to vape. You know, what's really going on. We start to break this down then to what is actually happening here. Does this all make sense with people? Yes, excellent. So then on the actual sessions, the things that I mix into that sessions really is, you know, after session one, you'll probably find just by giving somebody those things to do consciously and having brought huge awareness to what's really happening with this habit, what they are responding to, is that changes will already have happened. They might have even already stopped. It might be enough that everything's been brought to conscious awareness that it's enough to stop. So on the hypnosis sessions, I'm looking at recognising any changes, you know, recognising that they are actually ready to stop, clearing away the obstacles to this. So, you know, what has been discovered between week 1 and week 2? What did we discover on the charts that we got them to fill in to start with about this habit? And then we can start clearing away some of these obstacles. If it's somebody who has been a smoker and they've changed to vaping, you know, you might need to look at some kind of adult child work as well. You know, reasons for starting in the first place. It's not, the reason doesn't really exist anymore, does it? Whatever reason we started that's keeping us going isn't the same reason. We'd probably do some anchoring around the changes. And also, you know, we always have to do some forward planning. When we think about how they've done this habit, you know, where they've been, let's say, for example, they smoked outside, vaped outside the university, or they vape outside work, or it comes to break time and that's when I go and do it. We've got to have some forward planning around that situation, or even seeing other people vaping. That can be a trigger to do it. So what we're going to put in, maybe post-hypnotic suggestions around that. That, you know, when they see other people doing that, it's going to reinforce tenfold their decision not to be like them. We've got to work on, you know, how they want life to be. So certainly for, you know, the young people that I've worked with, they've been very focused on, you know, performing at the best if they're a sports person, and, you know, and the ones who have stopped, you know, like the teenager ones who have stopped, you know, they've really become a little bit of ambassadors in their schools. You know, although there's been that peer pressure to do it, the fact that they've broken away and stopped doing it and have felt better for it, they've actually become a little bit more of an ambassador to their peers to not do it, which has been quite nice to see. So, you know, there's a whole host of things that we need to think about building in to these vaping sessions if we're going to get long-term results with people. But you know, some of these may be similar to what you've used with smoking. Some of these might be, okay, I could add that into sessions. But you know, think about the dissonance. Think about how they're doing the habit. You know, if we can play into some of those things, we are going to get much better results. But, you know, also give consideration to the 3.7 million people doing this. You know, if we could have a whole business based on cessation services. You know, it's often what we want to be known as a hypnotist, and the closer we get to niching on something, it does tend to be easier. You know, I know marketing always tends to be kind of a bit of a headache with people, a bit of the broccoli of the hypnosis world is marketing. But I've always found that if we niche and decide what we're going for, it's much, much easier with our messages. It's much, much easier to reach the people that we want to reach. And, you know, at the moment, you know, it is a wide open thing for vaping. Wide open. Because nobody is really doing it really well. Nobody's really capturing that marketplace. And because there's media stories about the dangers of it, they will always look for spokespeople as well to talk about this. And what we need to be talking about is the mindset, the psychology side of it, the things that I've been talking about tonight. That's what we need to be talking about. So when we look to market our services, you know, with marketing, it's such a massive, massive topic. But when we look to market our services, you know, say if we have messages around the vaping, if we, you know, go out to where it's happening with young people, you know, you could have a business that is, you know, obviously adult focused because they're going to kind of pay the money. It could be for smoking and vaping, so it's cessation services, I would call it. But the vaping side of it, you know, to be seen to do everything you can in that area, and that's why you're so passionate about it, then my first protocol would be to go to the community centres, the youth groups, the schools, the universities. You know, we've always got to put ourselves out there. And, you know, what if you were to give an hour of your time each week to go and help in one of those areas and to give talks about this? Because that would be all over your website and you would be the natural expert then. It would produce a lot of kind of stuff in your community so that you were the one who was known for this. And if we're the known person, we always attract the clients. If we're really going to niche, obviously we have to look at search engine optimization and all those kind of things as well. But I just wanted to float a few ideas by you tonight. I say the reason I put these sessions together is when I kind of think this is a big deal for the hypnosis industry. This is something we could really get behind. You know, I've seen the difference in my office with young people and how it can be done. But, you know, no man is an island, and I cannot possibly see everybody myself or do everything myself. So I'm going to open it up for questions in a minute. If like vaping is something that I'm just going to actually no, I'm not going to do that yet. If vaping is something that you think, yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing how to do that properly, and you know, actually have a full program to do it, I have of course got a step-by-step program that includes all the assessments I do. You know, it includes the scripts, you know, gives you more ideas on all those things, but it's obviously very customizable on all the things I've just talked about. So I have got, you know, a webinar. It's just a webinar offer. The usual price for my full vaping training is $600. For the purpose of this webinar, it's $147. I'll drop the link in, and for that you get a full day's. It's a video training. It's all being recorded. A full training guide takes you step by step. I think it's about 100 pages or something is the training guide. And for the purpose of the webinar, it's $147. If you think, well, actually, I want to do that, but I really want to get behind it and use it as to you know, kind of plug that gap in the market, I am running a full marketing training on it, which will help consistent numbers for cessation, I'm going to call it. And I'm holding a training class on Saturday the 7th of September from 10 till 2, when I'm going to drill down on your profiles, your social media posting, press releases, and within that you get press releases written for you, to get your introductions, foot in the door, all that kind of thing, promotional videos, and I'm doing a marketing day for just $77. If you did both courses, it's $197. I'm going to pop the link. I'll put the link in the chat box. Just stop me share a second, because otherwise I can't see the chat box, and I'll also look at the messages as well. But I'll drop the link in there. For the vaping on its own, if you did decide that you wanted to do that, it's instant. You kind of get it instantly. Waiting room participants is not in this meeting. Oh, everyone in meeting. There must be people in the waiting room that I've ignored. Should get here on time, shouldn't they? That's it. I'll just pop that in there. That's kind of the link. It has both of those on it. So that if it was something that you wanted to consider, you know, it is all there for you. And I say, all I can do, you know, people may have different ways that they work with people, because we've all had different kind of training, haven't we, the way that we're being taught and everything else. All I can do is share with you what works for me and what I've kind of found as I go through these things. So I'm just going to go, so Penny's going to be on the 7th of September. Actually, somebody's just added a question about pricing, which is a really good question, and I meant to put it on the PowerPoint, and I am going to come back to, because it is a really important question. But I'm just going to go, so for the 7th of September, which is just the marketing angle, so it's the 4 hour of the marketing class, it is being recorded. So what I would suggest, if you are away and you wanted to do it, because I'm not planning on doing it again, if you are going to be away but you'd like to do it, you will get everything that people get on that marketing class. So it's fully recorded, it'll be sent out to you the next day, you get all the material, and if you needed a one-to-one with me, I will set that up over Zoom, so that we can go through anything. And likewise, if you bought just the vaping training, anything that you didn't understand, just drop me an email and we set up a one-to-one Zoom. You know, I'm here in the long term to support people, so I don't kind of disappear. So yeah, so Donald, so the cognitive dissonance, it's something sometimes you think, oh, do I get my head around this? So it's just that we have contracting beliefs. You know, what we're doing is we're doing the vaping, which is causing, you know, we know that it has health implications, but we're justifying it on the grounds that it's healthier than smoking. It's an, you know, a dissonance, it's an unease. And we know it deep down, you know, we do know it. It's not something that we don't know, but we try to ignore it. That's what we tend to do. We tend to try and ignore that, as opposed to, but as humans, we are wired, if you like, to try and reduce the unease. And so if we've got an unease, oh, this is really bad for us, I shouldn't really be doing this, but we justify it. We justify it by, well, if I have, you know, if it's cigarettes, well, if I have less than 10, it's only less than 10 a day, it doesn't really matter. That reduces the unease that we feel about it. Does that make sense, Donald? Yeah, okay. It's probably me not explaining it very well. So Alan's asked about the success rate. Do you have stats? So I don't have stats per se, but what I do is, you know, when I see a client, what I describe as follow up properly with people. So I keep in touch with my clients on a regular basis, no matter how long ago they came to see me. Because, and the reason that I do that is actually not so I can quote success rates at people, although there is that aspect. We want to know that it's worked in the long term, but also I want it so that I do know that it's worked and that I do know that this person's all right. And also so that they feel as if they slip up with something, I'm not just talking about vaping, clients in general, if they feel that, you know, something's not working for them anymore, or they've slipped back, they feel that they can contact you and they can talk to you. You know, when we don't keep in touch, you know, they sometimes feel a bit embarrassed. They're sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I can really contact that person. They feel like they've failed you. They don't feel like they're the failure. They feel like they've failed you. And I don't want people to feel that. So that's the main reason I keep in touch with people. But success rate wise, it's very similar, I think, to a lot of the hypnosis sessions that we do. In that, you know, you will always come across people who, it don't work. They're not ready. I haven't got it quite right. Whatever it is. You know, we will always have failures, always. It's no good when the parents come and say, you know, I want you to stop him vaping. Not going to work unless he wants to do something about it. I can certainly explore how life would be better, but somebody has always got to reach that conclusion themselves. And this isn't a vaping case, but I recently was, last few weeks I've been working with a top flight professional rugby player. And believe it or not, they don't get any help with like the mindset coaching. You'd think that they would. Perfect time for us as hypnotists to talk about mindset of sports on the back of the Olympics. You know, what were the mindset things that have been, you know, deployed for those people who have, you know, won gold. I mean, I was reading on the news, I'm diverting, aren't I? I was reading on the BBC News app this morning about a lady, now she'd won something, I'm sure, but she carried on running it with a broken leg. That takes some mindset, doesn't it? That takes some mindset. I'll just carry on running with a broken leg. Perfect example of how we as hypnotists should be writing something up about that. While it is top of mind with people. But anyway, this rugby player, it was actually a prime example. His mum had contacted me. He's only young. His mum had contacted me. Can you help with this? He seems to, you know, not have very much confidence, you know, and because his confidence is low, then is not as engaged in training sessions. And she said, and he is really, really good. but he's going to take a backslide. And I've told him about these things, but it won't really take it from me. I'm thinking that maybe you could help it. The first session, we did some very simple things. We looked at creating for him a winning image. What does that actually look like for him? He's performing at his best. What does that actually look like for him? Gave him some strategies for negative self-talk, a bit of a pre-competition routine that he was going to do before he went training or went to play a game. And he came back, and I was expecting good things, and he came back the second session and he hadn't really done any of the things, and he was a bit despondent. And I thought, oh. One of the things I said to him, and I actually picked this up from somebody else, we do pick things up when we have these sessions, or we talk to other hypnotists and we hang up in high weight groups. You just pick up little nuggets, don't you? Think, oh, that's a nice idea. So, we talked a bit about, I said, I'm 100% behind your success in your game, 100% behind it. And, whatever it takes, I want to help you to get to where you want to be. I'm 100% behind that success. And it's kind of face altered, like, oh, right, okay. And the next week he came back and he'd been doing all the things and had just played 2 of his best games ever. So it's just sometimes simple things, isn't it, that actually bring about the difference. Just simple things. But he, of course, had a coach that he'd worked with who, we talked about who does he look up to. He could kind of relate to this coach. And I'm like, what would that coach have told you to do? He'll have faced this himself. What would he have told you to do? And he would have said, just do it. I'm like, okay, I want you to take that phrase and, to all your training sessions, to every game, just do it. And that's what he's done. He's just do it. Simple as that. End of session. So I am still seeing him, but, fingers crossed he'll keep doing well. So let's have a look. So yeah, I haven't got success rates per se. I don't kind of go, okay, 95%, because I actually disagree with them a little bit, in that, what we're basing success on, how long we're basing that success on. We're basing it on a month, a year, 3 years, 5 years. When you look at a lot of studies that have been done with things, certainly like, for example, the weight loss industry, they're basing it on a study of under 12 months. So when people say to us, does this work forever? Well, it works while the habits are there. That's what we're dealing with, isn't it? Habit change. And habits can easily change. I am the queen of picking up new habits. Talk about self-suggestion. I have a highly addictive personality. And, I'm very fast learner. So, my latest addiction is chocolate bourbon biscuits. And it just started off with one. It was only one, just the one. Just the one on an evening. It's now become 3 on an evening very quickly, 1 in an afternoon, 1 at lunchtime. I'm at 2 at lunchtime now, actually. And I'm even giving the dog the same addiction, because the dog's like, oh, my dog, I've got little Jack Russell, and we call him the tax man. He likes 25% tax of what I'm eating, basically. So he's eating 25% of these bourbon biscuits too. So, we all can develop habits very quickly. When we look at success rates, it's as long as the habit's there. So Pauline, I can't see all the messages. Paulina, nice to see you. It can either be through automated emails. We can do that. I try and make it a little bit more personal so they don't look like automated emails though. So, it could be that, once you finish seeing somebody, I'm making a note in my diary 1 month from now. send text message too. You can have it all put on your CRM system to do it, but then that allows you to send a much more personalised message. So hi John, hope you're well. Is that dog still giving you problems? So you can say something personal about them, so they know that it's not just an automated response coming to them. But you can do that, if you want, through emails. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. I'm not saying it's not time consuming, but the benefits to your business of keeping in touch with people, it allows you to send review letters to doctors that they've been to see, and all sorts of things can happen on the back of that. And, you're top of mind for referrals. You can ask them for things if you've kept in touch, because we have a good relationship with them. So if a client, like from some of my clients, I've ended up getting personal introductions to head teachers, to people in businesses, just by saying, you don't happen to know so-and-so, do you? Just you give me a personal introduction. We can do all of that when we've developed that close kind of relationship and shown somebody that we care. Then, they will respond. Let me have a look, see if I've missed anything. Taxman, I love it, clever dog. Taxman gets me in every single direction. Okay, pricing. Before I forget, before I bring the webinar to a close. So obviously smoking tends to be something that we can charge a higher price for. Because generally people are spending quite a lot of money on cigarettes, so we can charge a fairly high price for our hypnosis session. I would always look at, rather than how much do you charge for vaping, I always look at how much do you want per client in your hypnosis business. When we look at how much do we want to earn, then it's, well, how many clients at what price? That's how we decide how much you're charging for vaping. It's not, okay, just charge 195 or charge 600 or, it really doesn't matter. You set your prices. People will buy into you as a person. I always do complimentary consultations. They work for me. I know some people charge for the consultation, so I always say, well, come and have a chat with me. I either want to do that in person or over Zoom, because I want to set eyes on somebody. A bit like we're doing now, we're setting eyes on each other. And when we set eyes on each other, we build a better relationship, and much more than we could do on the phone. I will have a complimentary consultation, and the reason I do those is that 9 cases out of 10 will immediately go and book the session with me immediately. I'm not going to do any hypnosis in that session, but again, we want to look at what's the minimum amount of money that we're going to start work for. So we have to work out our pricing model from that. What do we want our hypnosis business to produce? How much is that a month? How many clients at what price? As opposed to, it's X amount for vaping, it's X amount for weight loss, it's X amount for this. That is the way that I would do it, or how I run my business. James has posted the code post. I thought, how's James got that link? So thank you, James, who has posted the link in the chat box for Jennifer. Thank you very much. I will call upon your services in the future on future webinars. Let me just quickly go back. Okay, so Valerie had a client who was concerned about his health, exercise, performance and cost, but later said research is inconclusive and it's only £5 a day. Bit of a contradiction. Yeah, so, he has got dissonance, he has got unease, is what he believes and what's happening are two completely different things. He's got to want to do something. Obviously, that's the main thing. People have got to want to do something. But maybe on his consultation, I don't know if you did a consultation with him first, whether you played on the concern of the health and the exercise more to create more unease. might have helped. I think the other ones are just about training. Okay, yeah. 8 p.m. dinner reasonable, marriage is compromise, but football is important. Oh dear. So I hope you've all enjoyed tonight's webinar. I seem to have gone a bit dark. We seem to be getting darker nights are coming in, aren't they? I'll have to get my lights going a bit more in the future. But nice to see you all. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's given you a few ideas or just a little bit of food for thought, really. So if I can help you any more, if you have any questions, and if you do decide to take the training, and I think there's quite a few people on this webinar who've taken my training courses before, do know that I do support people in the long term. So when you go away and work with people with any of my training, if you come across anything you're not sure about, if you have a client in the future that you think, I've got this person with this, what should I do? Then people can always drop me a line at any time, and I will do my best to jump on a Zoom call with you as soon as possible to try and give you some ideas. I'm not the font of all knowledge, I'm not, none of us are we? But, I have got a lot of experience, so you're probably not going to come across anything that I haven't already faced at some point myself, even if that's just to say, yeah, I've had that happen, that's a nightmare. There's no easy solution, but try these things. You will always get complete honesty with me as well. So nice to see you. I love you and leave you. I'll go on, keep my husband happy now. I'm actually 6 minutes past him being happy. And hope to see you all again soon. All right. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.